Um, Good afternoon, Dr. Strom. Thank you so much for taking this time for this interview. First of all, I would like to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us more about your experience as a manager.
All right. My name is Kim Strom. I'm a professor of practice and assistant department head for the MSIS department here at Oklahoma State. I've been here a year and a half now as a full-time faculty member. Prior to that, I spent 30 years in the IT industry, primarily in software application development realm. So from that experience, I went from being a lowly programmer all the way up through owning my own company. So there was a lot of opportunities that I had in between there to do a lot of managing of IT projects, which ranged anywhere from, having 20 people, 30 people that were on a project to having in-house departments that may have been, 15 to 20 people or as little as 3 people. So, I got a good idea of what it takes to motivate small teams as well as large teams. And some of those teams were full-time employees and others were contract or consultants that were hired.
Okay, that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing. So we will jump on the first question. And the first one is, how did your career lead you to management? Is it something that you pursue or it's something that took you by surprise?
Not really by surprise. I've always liked to be managing what I'm doing. I like to be in charge of things, but I also like to involve others. So over the course of the year or course of my career, I was fortunate to work for some really great managers and some not so great managers. So what I found was I tried to mimic myself after those that I liked their style and tried to learn from those that I didn't like their style to ensure I didn't repeat that myself. So my MBA at Oklahoma State really helped prepare me for being a manager. I feel like a lot of those classes, but also I think that was more in my nature as well to want that kind of responsibility. And then I was very fortunate to work for a gentleman by the name of Steve Mumma very early in my career, who had a wonderful ability to not only be extremely smart and technical, and he could talk to people who were very technical all the way down the spectrum to those who knew nothing, and make everyone a part of the conversation and feel comfortable conversing about whatever the topic was. And he knew how to manage people well, whether it was large groups or small groups. He also was very good at coaching along beside you. He wasn't afraid to have a difficult conversation with you about things you needed to improve upon, but he was always there to help you figure out how to get better. So he was my role model from that point forward, to always try to be as good of a manager as he was. So.
Okay, so he put the stick high for you to be a manager.
And I don't think I've gotten there yet.
Okay, but you have time, no problem. So next question is, how do you handle different personalities in the workplace?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it's important to put yourself in other people's shoes. Perspective is everything. So a lot of times, if someone has a different opinion, different viewpoint, different reaction than what we have, we tend to either shy away from that or not like that. I think the more I have learned to understand why they reacted that way or why they have a particular viewpoint and put myself from their perspective, it has helped me be more open-minded about different ways of approaching problems, different ways of dealing with things. So consequently, I think it's made me a better person to look at it from other people's perspective. But it also helps to build trust and build strong relationships with them because they know you're listening to them. You don't have to agree with them. Sometimes you have to agree to disagree, but at least they know they've been heard and you're understanding where they're coming from.
Okay. You consider yourself good reading people?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can always get better, but
yeah, I know it's something that everyone can improve. So another question, how do you motivate your employees when you were working?
I think finding what's important to them, what their passion is. So I've done a lot of work like with Strengths Quest and Myers-Briggs and True Colors. There's all these different personality type assessments. And I love doing that because it helps you learn what motivates people, what's important for them, what makes them want to jump out of bed and go to work every morning versus dreading to go to work. And the more you can play to people's strengths, the more excited they will be about the project, about coming to work, about being involved in whatever it is that you're trying to achieve.
Okay, a great way to engage people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the next question is, what are some of the most prevalent ways that people fail as managers?
Not giving up control, I think, is one of the biggest ones. When you are in charge of something, everything becomes very personal. So if you succeed, then you feel really good and you want to celebrate. But if you don't succeed or you don't achieve your goals, then that you take responsibility for that as well. So if things are not going well, there's a real tendency to just want to take over and just let me do it so that we'll succeed and then I'll teach you later. And that's one of the worst things that you can do. You need to work along beside them because if they don't learn along the way, you're going to find yourself in that same situation over and over and over again. So even when there's tight deadlines, if there's a tight deadline and you don't have time for them to come up to speed with that, have them work along beside you. Have them be kind of like their ongoing mentor through that process, and then set up things after the fact so that they can learn maybe on a smaller scale or in a less critical environment. But it's really important not to just come in and take over because, number one, they'll expect you to do that each time, or they'll resent that you did that and not want to be a part of it because you're going to swoop in and do it your way anyway. So you have to.
It sounds like you can condition people doing the takeover, right? That's why micromanagement is not very useful in workplaces.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Well, next question. Which strategies do you employ to help others to strengthen their soft skills?
Okay, say that again.
Which strategies did you employ to help others to strengthen their soft skills? Or develop, I would like to say.
Develop their own skills. Any kind of skills?
No, soft skills.
Okay. Yeah, I have a real passion for people learning soft skills. In fact, as you know, my master's level class, we spend half of digital transformation, which people think is a really technical class. And we talk about technology, but implementing technology can only be successful if you have good soft skills that come along with it to get people on board. So I love going to any kind of professional development. And that's one of the things I tell anybody I'm managing. I tell students that if you have an opportunity to go learn a new technique on time management or a new technique on dealing with difficult people or, being a better communicator, anything like that, if you can just gain one new tip that works for you. And that tip may be different for me than you if we both went to the same training, because everybody's different and learns different. But to me, it's a success if you went to some training and learned just one new thing that you can try to go implement. So I think it's important to be open to new ideas, expose yourself to those kind of short trainings, and then implement it. Try it. If it doesn't work, okay, so you tried that. Find something else that works, right? Identify the things that you want to improve upon and put yourself in a position to improve those skills and practice things that you learned.
Okay. What is your favorite soft skill for managers?
Oh, for managers?
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many. I'd have to say communication though,
Okay.
because with lack of communication, people fill in the gaps.
Okay.
With their own perceptions, which are often not true.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why I even tell my students in the classroom, if you don't come talk to me, like if you're not coming to class or you're not turning in something, I'm going to make my own assumptions about why that is. Most of the time, my assumptions are wrong. Once I get that student to come talk to me, there's extenuating circumstances. It's the same way when you manage people.
Okay.
If you're not setting an environment where your employees, your team members feel comfortable coming and talking to you about, as an assignment, that they've been given a project that they just don't know where to start or they're struggling with it. You have to set that environment that it's okay to not know everything. You have to come talk to me and we'll work through it together. Or if you're dealing with personal issues that's impacting work, you got to talk to me. I can't help you if I don't know what the problem is. So communicating, setting up an environment where they feel comfortable coming and talking to you, but you got to have trust too. I mean, trust is one of those huge things that you've got to have that as well, but good communication helps build that trust.
Okay, thank you. And the last one is, how do you know when an employee is satisfied with his job?
Oh, I just think you can tell by how excited they are, how they bring new ideas to the table, how they want to help each other. They kind of have pep in their step when they're at work, right? They're not dreading doing things. If they are dreading, then that's not one of their strengths. And maybe you can shuffle some things around, and let somebody else do that. That may be their strength. So but letting them know that you're seeing that and keeping them excited and keeping them responsible and accountable for things, I think also helps make people happy, and making them realize how what they do day in and day out moves the needle for the overall organization, because everybody wants to do important work.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much. So that was all the questions, and I appreciate your time. I will stop recording.